Hey folks, it's Farmer Marshall. This is a day I've been waiting for the entire year and anxiously waiting for it for the last couple months. Since my branch back here, I'll show you a close up, on my Fuyu Persimmon tree broke. It didn't break completely off, but it's split, maybe 70% off. And it was loaded with these persimmons you can see here, and they were all green. I didn't know if they would get to this point, but since we're at this point and I have someone that wants some, I'm going to do a quick harvest. With these, I normally don't just pull them off the branch. You can cut them off, or if you want to take a little longer, you can just twist them off. But I'm not here to waste time. Not today, because I have to deliver these. This is probably one of my sweetest fruits that I'm growing. The tree is about 8 years old. I bought it when it was about maybe 3, maybe even 4 feet tall at a local nursery. And I knew it was a good tree because it already had 2 or 3 persimmons on it. And yeah, I did try to let them get big enough to harvest. I think I may have eaten one that year. But in subsequent years, the production of this tree has just gotten better and better. Except for last year. We had a late frost in March. I'm in zone 8A, by the way. We had a late frost in March. And I've had several trees that were harmed by that. Now, the blooms on these aren't quite as obvious as, let's say, on a peach tree where you have pink or white blooms or whatever. The blooms on this are somewhat hidden. I do have a video on it, or at least a short on it. But I couldn't see the blooms, and I really couldn't see if it was harmed. But yeah, I got nothing that year. All the blooms were destroyed. But this year, no late frost, tons of persimmons. Of course, like I mentioned, the only problem was that branch broke. That's why, I don't know if you can see the ladder over here. I have one branch hanging that was hanging down to the ground. I pulled it up some, and the rest of it I have balanced on this old pallet. So it has survived, and I'm thinking, one of the viewers suggested putting some type of trellis along here to kind of just support this branch. I'm definitely considering doing that because it sounds like a pretty good idea. I'm not going to leave this pallet here. It's kind of unsightly, or the ladder, because I need it. So I might do a little trellis or something to help support it. Something else I'm going to do, I'm going to do I'm not going to do cuttings. I'm going to do air layering, where you can, I'll put out a video on it when I do it, but you can actually, I say process, but this process you can do to create roots along the branch. And once you get enough roots there, you can cut the branch off from the remaining tree and plant that. So I'm going to get a pretty decent sized branch, and at least I'm probably going to get a pretty decent sized branch, maybe this one here, and see if I can get it rooted. It's going to take some time to get it rooted, and it's going to take some time for it to really recover from, well, it's going to take enough of time. It's going to take some time for it to get enough roots to really support the tree and help it grow fruit. So once I plant the air layer, I'm probably going to make sure I remove any and all buds on it, because I don't want it to produce any fruit the first year that I plant it. So one thing with air layering is, when you air layer a tree, you're producing, if that tree is mature, you're producing an identical tree that's mature. Had some funny looking fruit coming off the tree this year though. See a little spike on it? I've had some that hit one spike, some that have two. It's not a new variety. It's just, I don't know, some weirdness going on. But they taste fantastic. So yeah, I'm going to remove quite a bit of the fruit off of this branch. I think I told them I would give them about 30 or 20 or 30. So, and with what I have left over, obviously I'm going to eat some, but also I'm going to dehydrate. I love dehydrating fruit. That way later on in the year or early next year, I can still be eating persimmons. I've heard they taste great dehydrated. And I don't know if I mentioned the Fuyu, they're an Asian persimmon. Medium, decent sized fruit. Here's another freaky looking one. Look at that. I don't know what's going on. But like I said, they still taste good. And my dogs like them too. Well, at least one of them does. I think he likes to grab them sometimes while I'm around, just to show that, hey, I'm eating these too. But don't feed your dogs persimmons. At least not a lot of them. My dogs are generally out here, so I can't really stop them from eating them. But you really don't want to give them a ton of persimmons because it could cause stomach aches. And if you have dogs, you know what happens when they have stomach aches. I haven't found any accidents in their room because even though they are outside dogs, I keep them inside at night. And these persimmons, and one thing about the Fuyu persimmons, they're non-astringent. Some some persimmons are astringent, where when they're completely ripe, they're soft and mushy, almost like jam. The Fuyu persimmons are non-astringent, so you can eat these when they're firm. You can wait for them to get soft and squishy, almost like jam. I prefer them firm, so I'll eat them like an apple, either just biting into them or slicing them up. The astringent persimmons, if you don't wait for them to get soft and squishy, the experience of dry mouth is almost scary. It's that bad. So know your persimmons, because if you're just randomly, well, I guess you're probably not randomly just eating one, but know your persimmons, because if you find one that's astringent and you eat it when it's firm like this, well, first of all, you're not going to eat it. You're probably going to bite into it and realize you made a mistake. Oh no. I did that once. My family had some land and I was wandering around and I saw, wow, a persimmon tree. So I decided to taste one. And this one was ripe. It was good. In a subsequent year, I found another persimmon tree and tasted one of those, and I almost choked. It was horrible. So know your persimmons, know your persimmons, know your persimmons. Now, like I mentioned, when I first bought this persimmon tree, it had a fruit on it. Generally, if I buy a tree that's young, I take the fruit off or take the blooms off when they bloom, and that will help the tree focus on growing growing more roots, growing taller, more leaves, no more branches, instead of focusing on the fruit, because this takes energy. On a very, very young tree, you want the energy to be focused on building the tree up as opposed to giving you fruit. Because if you let the tree build itself up and then let it develop fruit, you're going to get more fruit. It's worth the sacrifice. Just remove those blooms and give it another year or two, depending on the age of the tree. And sometimes we really don't know, but a small tree, I just rather not even have fruit on it. And that's something that I learned after I had let my persimmon tree grow some fruit. But like I said, after that first season, it will put on, I think the next year maybe only put on maybe 10, 15. Of course, the dogs pulled some off when they're green because they thought it was like a ball. So I might have only have gotten 5 the second year I had it. But third year and all subsequent years, I had plenty of persimmons. Most years I have about, and this is not a huge tree, it's maybe 15 feet tall. I don't know, 12 feet wide, but it's not a huge tree. But I get probably about, I say probably about 150 persimmons on this at least on an average year now. And I know the persimmons that I was picking over there weren't that big. Well, they were okay size. But this one here, that's a big persimmons. I have really big hands, but that's a big persimmon. So that little weird thing on it. But yeah. So I'm not going to give them just the small persimmons. I'll give them some of the bigger ones too. Take off some of the weight on this branch too. I don't want more of these branches splitting. This is actually part of the, this is actually part of one of the branches that did split. So this is what I'm giving away. Yeah, I kind of like that. It's hard for me to determine how much weight this is on here, but I bowl. So this is at least 14, 15 pounds. This is not lightweight. So they should be happy. I'm happy. And one thing you're seeing on this tree, or you're not seeing on this tree, is all the fruit that I've harvested before I did this. I said 150. A lot of the ones that are up top are already gone. I've harvested those. So it might have been 200 fruit. I don't know. But that's free food. And to be honest with you, I did not water it once this year. I did not fertilize it. Forget. So it's a pretty easy tree. Now, I'm not saying your results will be the same, especially if you get a young tree. You definitely want to water it. And when I planted it, I think one of the most important things I did is I planted it correctly. I dug a big hole for the root so the roots get spread out. I put some good dirt in it. I put some cow manure in it. And I think I may have put some peat moss in it for drainage / water retention, whatever. So how you plant a tree does have effects on it further down the line. So if you get one of these guys, plant it properly. There was this one gardening show I used to listen to back in the day. I think it's called Walter Reeves. And he used to always say, when you're planting a tree, the most important thing is dig a big hole for it, because you want those roots to spread out. And I think if you plant it properly, you can get some wonderful harvests from your persimmon tree. This is my favorite tree in the yard. And I have other trees that are coming along. They are a little young, but I'll be showing you those in the future. So let's get out there and get a little dirty.